For
All
sure.
right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar Wednesday. We're glad that you're here to join us. As folks are joining in, please feel free to drop your name in the chat, where you're from, district, or charter, so that we can say hi. So today we're kicking off our first webinar in our Superintendent Journey series. And I want to just say this up front that we are going to have fun. We are going to keep it very, very real and honest. And this is not going to be polished. So the superintendency is often something that's talked about but not talked through, and so that's why we have this series. It's about real experiences, real stories, and real leadership. And so today's conversation is important to us because there's a lot of public misunderstanding about what the role actually entails. Superintendents are leading under constant pressure, right, and scrutiny, and we're seeing a continued turnover, which is often talked about. Which is often without space to talk honesty about why. And so we're excited to have an amazing panel here today. We have two more episodes coming up where Kim will put the link in the chat for you all to join. But before we get into things, just a quick housekeeping items that we have. So as y'all probably already know, my name is Shay. I'm the community manager here at Parsec Education. We will have this recorded, and so you will get an email recording of the slides and then also the recording. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to interact in the chat room. We'll leave space for Q&A at the end. So getting into everything, I am joined by three amazing leaders. I've had the chance to get to know them over the last couple of weeks. And so going in the order of this panel, I would love for y'all to just share your name, where you're currently, where you're servicing, and then one thing that we don't know about you that people wouldn't expect.
Good morning. My name
Heidi, go ahead and
is
start.
Heidi Gasca. I am the superintendent of Excel Academy Charter Schools. We service about 2,000 kids in all throughout San Diego, Orange, Riverside, and Los Angeles County and San Bernardino. We're chartered in two districts, in Warner in San Diego and in Hellendale in San Bernardino. So I'm honored to be here and share my journey. Excel Academy has been in existence since 2013, and I have served as the executive director and superintendent now since the very beginning. So I'm honored to be here. And one thing I guess people may not know or expect about me is that I can ski black diamond ski runs. That's it.
That's pretty cool, Heidi.
Excellent. Happy.
That's
Bob.
awesome. So yeah, okay, a whole new level of respect, Heidi. I already respected you already, but now great to meet all of you virtually. My name is Bob Nelson. I'm actually the former superintendent of Fresno Unified. I did that for 7.5 years, and I was also the superintendent in a little district in eastern Madera County in Central California called Chiwaniki. So a 1,200 student district and a 72,000 student district. 10.5 years in the superintendency. Now I work at Fresno State. I'm a professor of educational leadership, so it's super fun. So I have existing teachers that want to become leaders for the first time, and we kind of coach them up and talk to them about what it means to lead in the valley. And it's a really low, and I'm living proof that there's life after the superintendency. You can actually leave without getting fired, and you can like live your life your own way on your own terms, which is really quite lovely. One thing you probably wouldn't know about me is I have more children than the woman in the shoe. We have 7 kids of our own. Don't judge. Had 3, fostered 8, adopted 4 of those, lest you're, putting me in some kind of weird box. The reality of it is, like, we have a beautiful, huge blended family. My claim to fame is I have 2 sets of twins that are 17 years apart. One set are 27 and the other are 10. So beat that.
I love that, Bob.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm Melanie Matta, Superintendent Principal at Hope Elementary School in Porterville. This is my 8th year in the superintendency, and gosh, I've loved every minute of it, really. I mean, it's been challenging, but very rewarding, right? When we see what we can do for kids on a grander scale, it's just incredible. Something people might not know about me is when I was in high school, well, like middle school, high school, I wanted to be an astronaut. And I had a Cabbage Patch doll that was an astronaut. Like I was gonna be an astronaut until one of my high school teachers told me I wasn't so good at math. And so that probably wouldn't be an avenue I could go in. I wish I would have proved that person wrong, but I went into education instead to ensure that no matter what kids' dreams are, that we do everything possible to make it happen.
That's amazing. What a nice full circle. And also, Melanie, it's not too late for you to be an astronaut. You can do whatever you want.
Well, after I watched the Challenger blow up, that pretty
Yeah.
much did it for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for introducing yourself. Let's get into it. So one thing that came up in our prep call was that none of you described a linear, predictable path, right? And that once you're in your role, it looks very different than what's on paper. So, Melanie, when you stepped into your seat, what surprised you the most, and what felt different than what you expected?
Yeah, what surprised me the most is that I thought I knew what the superintendency was about, and I really didn't. It's a lot more political than I care to be ever in my life. And I think Bob can attest to that, and probably Heidi as well. But it was not a role that I expected. Let me just put it this way, during COVID times, like you're leading your district, and then COVID just blows everything up, right? And now it's super polarizing, and you have to navigate what you think is best for kids versus how the community sees you should be leading what's best for kids. And so then you just kind of get pulled in all these different directions, but your North Star is kids always. So that was definitely unexpected for me.
Yeah. And then Heidi, you lead in the charter space, right? And you talked about how much of your role is about authorizing relationships with collaboration with agencies. So, what surprised you most just being in your seat?
Yes. I came from being a teacher in the public school system, in the brick and mortar. So switching to a charter and moving into administration really was a big shift for me. I really had to balance both the education side of the job, which is where my passion and my training was all based in. And then I had to shift to a whole different side of running a charter school based on being entirely in charge of the budget, hiring, and then my relationship with the authorizing districts. And I take that very seriously, as well as my role in legislative advocacy, because we have to really, we don't really have a district backing us. So we are really the sole LEA, the sole district. So I need to make sure that I'm communicating with the legislative bodies and the representation up in Sacramento, even our local assembly members and senators. So I think the biggest shock for me was balancing that passion that I entered the role in, which was students and teaching and instruction and curriculum and all those things that I still have such a passion for, and balancing that out with running the school on the kind of a business aspect, which the charter kind of has to balance both, and really making sure that I was representing what kids need up in Sacramento and in a personalized flex-based learning model. So I'm often in Sacramento working on supporting legislative bills that would support charter schools and public school in general. And then I also work very closely with our authorizing superintendents. And we find many, many ways to partner with one another. And so both of us benefit in sharing often curriculum or facility space and various things. So it's really important. I'm close to both the authorizing district boards and making sure that we stay in close contact with their board and answer any questions that they have regarding the charter as well.
Yeah.
I'll tag on to Heidi on that one, as well as I didn't realize in my role that I would be in Sacramento quite often, also advocating for the rights of small school districts, that small school districts need a louder voice at the state level because we're not often funded like the larger districts are. We're not taken into consideration in bills that are written specifically for larger districts that gigantically affect smalls in a much different way.
Yeah, thank you. And then Bob, I wanted you to share just what your misconceptions were, but I know in our prep call you mentioned you had some regrets following what Melanie and
Yeah,
Heidi touched
I'll
on.
just
And so, yeah, I
I'll
would love
just
for you to
plus
touch on
one
that.
everything you heard Heidi and Melanie say. I think for the people on this call, as you're approaching this leadership journey, recognizing at the state level, the finite number of people who make really big decisions about stuff that happens to us is way, way smaller than you think. So you can have an outsized voice. Now, Melanie's not wrong. Like LA Unified tends to set policy, and then the other major urbans, Fresno, Long Beach, San Diego, like everybody has a little bit of a say. But the reality of it is the number of people at the state level who, I mean, you can have an outsized voice if you make time to make sure you know what it is you want to accomplish there at the state level and you take the time to be an advocate. I regret not having done that. I'm doing a little more of it now in higher ed, but I will agree I kind of missed the bully pulpit. I think the main misconception that probably the public has about the superintendent is that you actually work at the behest of the board. They don't work for you. Like everybody's like, why don't you get your board in check? Like, no, 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 wait a minute. Like those 7 people or those 5 people or those 3 people or those 12 people, those are my boss. Like you don't get that, right? Like, and it would be amazing if superintendents kept their job if kids were learning. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're going to keep your job. I mean,
Right.
that would make a lot of sense in our career sector that if kids learned, you would keep your job. It just has nothing to do with whether or not you're going to stay in the superintendency. Your ability to do the capsule or the cape number 5, which is that contextual knowledge, and do you know what's coming down the pike? That is what's going to keep you in the superintendency. You have to be aware of what the political dynamics are. And people say, "Oh, I don't do politics." Yes, you do. You're just bad at it. You don't like it, but like the moment you sat down at this webinar, you're doing politics. Like there's just you can't. There's no scenario by which you can somehow put yourself in a box and say, "Oh, I don't do politics." Yeah, you do. You do because you're an educational leader. If you're a principal, you're a politician. No question. Like you're managing a small city. So don't pretend it's not real because you don't like it.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. And it looks like Tim Warner agreed with you. I do want to ask you a question, Bob, because you mentioned something that's stuck with me is you said that there isn't a leadership architect to this job, right? So can you just speak more on what you meant by that for everyone who's on the call
Yeah,
today?
can I just tell you, like, there's no, sometimes people think they look at a leadership archetype, like, and okay, so let me just acknowledge that sounds pretty stupid coming from a face that represents privilege most of the way it's behind. Okay, hey, straight white male, why don't you let's tell us how it's all going to be, right? Like, okay, so let's just put that where it is and say, leadership should look like as diverse as the student population that we serve, quite frankly. And the key thing is you don't have to constrain your excellence into some leadership belief system, right? Like I used Mr. Rogers as an example in our prep call, right? At the time Mr. Rogers was coming to power, like they didn't want black and white students swimming together. And so he got Officer Clemens, the black officer, and they swam together in the pool. But he's still wearing the cardigan sweater. He didn't change being kind of like cool, nerdy Mr. Rogers guy in order to be an advocate for equity, right? And I say all of that to say that, like, whatever you're good at and whatever your core strengths are as a leader, you leverage what makes you truly excellent. And then you surround yourself with people who are not like you, who don't think like, look like, love like, believe like, and then you let them press your thinking and you'll be able to keep the job a lot longer. Um, it's not about your ability to lead. If you focus your attentions on how good you are as a leader, you're not going to be there as a leader very long. Focus your attentions on how you can serve the people that you are put there to serve and how you can surround yourself with people who are not like you to make sure you're serving everybody better.
Bob, you
Yep.
taking us
My
to church
circle of
today.
Yes, my circle of friends is extremely different than I am, and I really appreciate the value that each of them bring to the conversation because what I think is definitely not what all of the 4 other girls in my circle think, and it's great to be challenged on our thinking all of the time.
Heidi, anything you want to add before we move on to the next section?
No, I just can't reiterate enough that I think my biggest success absolutely in running the charter for 15 years has been attributed to the people that I surround myself with. And I find that the years that I was the most successful, and I've had to make some hard decisions, and that was a real growth area for me too. I had to realize who was bringing down the team overall and make some tough decisions. and have some really hard conversations to look out for the greater good of the entire school and the dynamic of multiple people working together. I always say it's not necessarily the job part of the work, it's the people. And that's the golden ticket. And it can be, I really truly believe that it is attributed to the entire success of the school. But I've also, when it can be in a negative lens, or there's issues with people, it can also quickly turn the entire culture around. So really controlling the people, and making sure that you really surround yourself with people that challenge you and make you better. And I feel like that's the best part of this role, is that I'm always learning and being surrounded by people that make me better.
Yeah, that's important. And I want to call out, we had a comment. Chris says he agrees with you, Bob. Always tell my staff leadership, it's not about power, it's about service. So that's great. All right. So now we're going to talk about perception, because we know that y'all's role carries a lot of assumptions, and you know what they say about assumptions. So Heidi, what is one thing that the public or even educators get completely wrong about the job that you're doing?
I would say one thing that would be completely wrong, at least I guess it depends on where you're holding the role of superintendent, but to me, I think the most effective superintendents are absolutely not at the top removed. And I think that the biggest key to success or a misconception would be that you aren't involved in everything. And I think those superintendents that I surround myself with, that I find successful, are willing to jump in and do anything. I mean, it's like you can say that you would take out the trash, you would place an order, you would enroll a student. And I feel that the misconception is maybe just that you've arrived and that you're at this position of, so to speak, the top, or as maybe as high as they think you can get in the world of education. But in my mind, that's more of a challenge for me, and it's farthest from the truth. I feel like I just I want to be more involved. I just have to really analyze where to put my efforts, and again, look at the whole picture of the school and the longevity of the charter.
Yeah, for sure. And Melanie, in your community, what pressures show up that people don't see, or that they get wrong?
Oh gosh. We literally hold the weight of the world on our shoulders all of the time. But one of the things that I really that I do every single day is I'm in the parking lot talking with parents every single morning. I'm greeting kids with knuckles and high fives. I'm in the classrooms a lot, not with a paper and a pad of, like not a notebook, but just how can I be of service to you today? I don't walk in there to evaluate staff. That's not my role. My role, well, it is my role. Let me be clear about that. It is my role, and we have to do that. But my ultimate role is to just support every single day, support kids, support staff, support families that need support. And really, I come last, right? Like, you often wonder who's left to support me, but that's not the role that we took on. We are the support for everybody else.
And then Bob, what about you? What pressures show up that people didn't see when you were in your role, or that you want to elaborate
Yeah,
on?
honestly, you guys, if you really are serious about being a superintendent, you just have to be content with the idea that people are not going to understand you. Like, you're going to have information about certain situations that other people are not privy to, and that you're not going to be able to give it to them. So they're going to make decisions and judgments about you on the basis of limited information. And quite frankly, it's probably going to piss you off. And you just need to tell your head, like, hey, thanks for sharing. And then wake up the next morning and keep going at it again, because you can't always let people know everything that you know. You're going to have more context in the situation. You're going to have a much more clear perspective. And you're just going to get judged. And the other one, too, is like, I think one of the things that people get wrong is you have to either like be nice or you have to have a spine. Like, that's complete and utter hogwash. Like, you can lead simultaneously with an open heart and like a sharp mind and a firm spine. Like, you just do what you believe to be right to the greatest number of people. part of being a leader is you're not going to make everybody happy. Now, I was a superintendent of the pandemic. Wear a mask, people are mad. Don't wear a mask, people are mad. Practice for sports, people are mad. Don't practice for sports, people are mad. Like there was no like what can you guarantee in the pandemic? You're going to be mad. Like I can guarantee it. Like you are going to be pissed off. Like 8 ways from Sunday. So knowing that there's no path forward that you're going to be able to have universality of happiness, you just do what you believe to be right, and you let people be mad, right? And you'll like one advantage I have not being the superintendent anymore is I just realized like 2 weeks out of the job, it didn't really matter. Like I really worried about all that stuff. And 2 weeks out, you think, yeah, that was dumb. You laid awake nights over stuff that you're just not an important enough person in the lives of most people. Like you're a bit player on their stage where they're the main actor. Like don't lose sleep over it. You do what you believe to be right. You look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and you say, did I put myself out there for kids in a positive way? And go to sleep. Because the next morning, guess what? The sun continues to rise and you have to get up and you have to go at it again.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, Bob. So one thing that came up when we talked earlier during our prep calls was how much of your roles involved collaboration, right? Especially with agencies at state level. Heidi, I know you kind of spoke on it a little bit earlier, but do you want to go into a little bit more detail about the assumption that districts and charters are difficult working together and what that kind of navigation looks like?
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of, as we mentioned, or Bob mentioned, there's a small amount of people making the decisions. And then add to that recipe, the people making the decisions sometimes are often very far removed from the day-to-day work. So I think when I realized when I went up to Sacramento and I was speaking on various bills and I would knock on assembly member and senator doors, I realized that it was really on me to be patient in educating them. Instead of just assuming that they were necessarily against us, they have very little understanding. And they also have so much on their plate. So I think it's just being sensitive to be that bridge and making sure that you spend time educating them. They are essentially wanting to do what's right. And a lot of them is either lack of knowledge or lack of exposure or lack of understanding about what the bill is really about and how it will affect their constituents. So what we did is we also brought kids and families, and they accompanied me to some of these senators' office. And it's really telling when a child and a parent, and we are all sitting there and we can really explain, what we're doing. So again, it just varies. I had pamphlets for the ones that didn't have a lot of time. I offered my card, my time. I spoke at a local town hall for my assembly member that's in our district. And so it's really just being available, really educating their staff, because sometimes you can't even get to them either. So I just think it's being patient and really realizing that the people that are making these decisions have a lot on their plate, and they really don't fully understand the whole picture or sometimes what their vote will do to kids.
Yeah, it seems like Heidi, you've done a really good job at using your voice to advocate for your students in your community. And I know, Melanie, you shared about not knowing how much of a voice you would need to have. So do you mind just sharing a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I stepped into the role, you're overwhelmed at first because there's just so much to learn. And you have all of these people in your care that you really have to go to bat for every day. And so as I got more involved with AXA and SSDA and other organizations, I realized that I could use my voice in a much more strategic way, rather than just talking with my colleagues. But I could use my voice and use my experience to really elevate the needs of small school districts, to ensure that our students have the very best of what we can give them every single day. But that is relentless advocacy. And I didn't expect that I would be in Sacramento so often, or that I would be engaging in conversations with CDE, that I would be on the board of directors for SSDA, that I would be the AXA Small Schools Council president. I mean, I get into all these roles because they give me a larger voice at the table, so that we can elevate our kids and make sure that we're giving them the best of what we can give them every single day. But that's service. I mean, that we got in this role to make a difference, and we continue to knock down the doors of our legislators and of our lawmakers, and ensuring that they're hearing us. And I am out of my district quite a few days for that. And so what is a reality on that is I'm literally working from my computer all the time because things still need to run in my district. But I also need to have that voice in Sacramento.
Yeah. And before we move on, I know, Bob, you're getting all the feels and I see you getting emotional. Is there anything that you want to add to what Melanie said or even what Heidi said?
No, I just said like there's life beyond the role. We're going to talk about that in a little bit too, but like people are going to put you in a box as a superintendent. They're going to see you as a vehicle to accomplish things. Like I can get a contract to this person, or they can hire my sister, or that kind of thing. Or they're going to see you as a barrier. This person's getting in the way. Like anything you can do to keep yourself authentically human in that interaction is better for you, and it's better for all your people, right? Like people tend to think the superintendent is a thing and not a human. But you're like Heidi said it, like you haven't arrived, like you're still there and you're still a human. And I think confronting people with your humanity is always a good choice. I was joking around about it. Like people hated me, like because I was, in labor fights or whatever. So I would play the ukulele online. And if people hate you, playing the ukulele online is the most ultimate passive aggressive jam you could ever do because they don't know what to do with that. They just have kittens. Like they do not know how to respond to you if you do crazy stuff that makes you look really authentically human online. But it's critical that you remain yourself every day in this role.
Yeah, and that leads us perfectly, Bob, into our next section. So, leadership isn't a costume. One of my favorite moments in our prep calls was when you all had a really honest conversation around leadership not being perfection. And so, Bob, I know you shared the more messier you were, the more vulnerable you were as a
I
leader,
love
the
that you use this quote to like
I know,
maybe.
right? Don't you love it?
Well, I love that you use it to maybe validate my presence on this call. Like, because people are like, why would they have chose that guy? Like, okay, well, anyway, we'll just get ahead of it by using the quote. But
No, but I that kind of goes against what you think as a leader. So why do you think this worked for you?
the reality of it is, anytime you spend trying to figure out how you look as a leader is time that you are not spending doing the right thing as a leader. You have to function in the superintendency like you're playing without a net. Every minute you spend worrying about whether or not you look the right way or whether you might get fired is time that you are not putting your head in the right space to kind of make the right decisions for kids. If you spend any time looking over your shoulder thinking, oh my God, they're going to kill me, they'll kill you. If you spend your time facing forward thinking like, okay, what do I need to like really good people, this is maybe the scary part, really good people lose their place in the superintendency who are very, very capable through no fault of their own. And it is not a you problem. And it's universally known that superintendence is a volatile role. So knowing that, you can't look backwards over your shoulder. You have to look forward and, be as human and as authentic as you can be. Like people don't follow somebody that they think is a costume. People want to follow somebody who's real.
Yep.
And so, and you've worked for leaders who are real, and who you work for people that were kind of like an empty suit. Like do not be the latter. Kids deserve something better than that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Melanie and Heidi, I would love for you all both to share how has being human, like what Bob is saying, shaped the way that people respond to you as a person and also as a leader.
Yeah.
When you show up and like one day we had 0 custodians and we had a kid pee the floor. Well, guess who walked in there to clean up the pee? Me. We have to be willing to roll up our sleeves and do what needs to be done in service for kids and other adults in our organization. Because if we don't do it and we don't model it, we're not going to have that in our organizations, right? So we have to be willing to do the dirty work all day, every day. And if that's all I had to do all day, every day, I would do that. If that's what the role called for, I'm in the cafeteria serving lunches because our lunch person is out. That's something that I can put on an aide, but why take them out of their job that is directly servicing kids if I can do that? So we have to be willing to do the dirty work. That's what I'm saying.
And then Heidi, what about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I echo completely Bob and Melanie, and I think for me, it's also acting with integrity. And that's been a huge growth area for me in general, as Bob previously mentioned, of like, not everyone's going to like you. At first, that did bother me a lot. And I was really walking that line of trying to kind of make everybody happy or see what I could do. And I think letting that go for me was a big, big health turnaround. Like, I knew if I was going to sustain this position, I needed to be okay with people not liking me or making people upset. And I think it goes back to 100% goes back to being who you are, and like they see that. And everybody that went into education, hopefully, they went into it for kids. And if I always go back to the kids, they can never ever, argue with that point and being integral. And they know that. I think if I hope that if I were to ever leave or anybody were to describe me, the one word I would love to be described would be integrity. That I believed in kids and I always made decisions for the right reasons. And people disagree with me, and I've learned to, like Bob said, nod my head and say, I wish you knew all the backstory, and that's okay. I'm not going to explain it to you. And, but I know that I know I'm doing the right thing. So I think it's staying grounded. It's also having that separate sounding board from my family and some of my closest friends outside of education. And I think that that's a huge piece too. I have an incredible husband and family and kids. My kids are all in soccer, and I remove myself too. And I think that that's a healthy balance. I'll go out for a friend's birthday. I love shopping. I love eating Mexican food. I do all that too. So it can't be all consuming. I've learned that as well.
Yeah. Melanie, Bob, anything you all want to add?
Just to me, the way I put it out there is leadership is human work. I mean, we are in the business of leading humans, whether that's adults or kids. And so we need to be leading with heart at all times. And the understanding, right? The understanding that people have lives and they might be going through something in their life, but we need to show up with the heart and allow people to make mistakes and be vulnerable with us. That really is where kind of the leadership role is for me, is all of the hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just double down on that, right? Like people are like, "Oh, you can't use the word love in our career sector." Well, what if we're not the career sector of love? It's not car sales. I'm fairly sure of that. Like, what is the career sector that we talk about love? Like, we should lead with love. And Heidi had it exactly right. Like, we all got into this because we care about kids. People want to see you show up as an authentic person. Like, you remember your best teacher, right? You knew that person was all in and they cared about you. I don't, I'm super good being not being liked. In fact, I even love being hated by the right people. Like that's a great source of honor for me. Like the right people hating you actually is a sign that you're actually a pretty good leader. Um, but for my students or my teachers or my staff members, I want to be every staff member's favorite leader. And I'm going to strive to do that. I'm not going to make it because I'm going to make decisions that are going to tick some of them off, but I'm going to strive and show up every day, authentically to try and be everybody's favorite leader.
Yeah. And Bob, I think it's worked because we have Andrea saying that you are an amazing leader, and she's why that is why she's here today. So
Well,
the proof is in the pudding.
well, honestly, like, yeah, okay. If there's any truth to that, like, yeah, she's way better than me. She took a principalship that
Pay her, Bob.
anyway.
You
Anyway,
paid her for
Henry has
that.
a star. Thank you, though.
All
Bless you.
right. So before we wrap up, I want to spend some time just noting something that's super important. Hattie, you touched on this a little bit before, but what are you all involved in outside of work that keeps you grounded and feeling like yourself? And anyone can go. Anyone can go first.
I know I touched base on it, and I think whether my husband wants us to be the consultant sometimes for the issues, because there's some things you can't share, with people. So it's like you'll have these moments where you really just need to vent, and you have to kind of keep it to yourself. And so I think it's just I bought a dog. I try to go outside and go on a walk. That's been a big thing mentally, to get up from the computer or up from the emails and walk away. So I think it's just it's staying grounded and surrounding yourself with people that, you know, lift you up and believe in the same things you believe in. And, like you having a life, you know, outside, putting it away, closing the computer, it's hard because it just never stops, and you have to put it away and know that, you know, it will be here. And again, as you begin to surround yourself with incredible people, like, you know, you begin to trust, and the load comes off, and it makes it easier too. So it comes with time.
Yeah. Melanie, what about you?
I've got a great girl gang, and one of them is on here today, Stacy. I've
Hi,
got a
Stacy.
wonderful group of friends that I really am honored to spend time with. They're not only smart, but they're beautiful and they're funny, and they just love to travel like I do, and have a good time. And we need that as leaders. We need to be able to unwind and trust that our people have our backs at all times, and we'll like be on the call today, and you know, make sure that we're taking time out for ourselves and all the things. So love my girl gang.
Yeah. And then what
If I
about you,
could add
Bob?
one piece too, maybe like just lovingly, stop beating yourself up over what you believe to be the right thing in terms of work-life balance. Like it's just not a thing. Like I don't mean to, I don't want to be rude about that, but like figure out who the people are in your life that you really love, who like pour into you, and figure out what ticks them off. Back that off by 20 minutes, and that's work-life balance, right? Like any show, like it doesn't look the same for any person. It doesn't, but we tend to do this thing where it's like, oh my God, I'm not like, you can't be everything to everybody. And I realize too, let me not walk by, there's a gender component to that too, that as a guy, it's different for me than it is for my spouse. And like, as a dad is different than being a mom and all of that. But the reality of it is, you have to maintain the things that keep you authentically yourself. Protect your health, protect your family, protect your identity outside the job. Don't read all the stuff on social media. There are people there who are intentionally trying to just punk you for fun. Like, if you wouldn't have the person, like, if you, like, it's hard to say that, but if the person doesn't merit your attention in like actual life because they're not there in the arena with you, don't spend any time like losing time over reading the stuff that they put. And you know, like, and people don't have all the context. So again, like, it's okay to be hated. It's not, people have a very short memory. I'm living proof of that. Like out of the job, like it just doesn't matter. Like people hated on me. Like we almost struck twice, right? And people hated on me like something severe. They actually protested against me. Like now, a year and a half out, like all of that is gone. So just I can give you the perspective to say like the stuff that you worry about most, none of it's real. You're hallucinating on that, so you can let it go.
Yeah, y'all shared some amazing gems. And also, you all are really humble because you guys are doing some amazing things. We have authors on here, y'all. We have CCSA representations. We have Melanie, who is a published author. So, do y'all want to share a little bit about some of these other things that you guys are doing?
I'm not published yet, but I'm gonna be.
You're gonna be.
But Bob is, and I ordered his book not too long ago, and I'm just, it's in my, I so one of the things that I do on the side is I'm learning financial literacy. I don't know about y'all, but nobody taught me that. And especially as I, you know, kind of continue to progress in my career, knowing that I could have done far more with my finances than what I'm doing now. Anyway, that's what I've got on my reading list, and then Bob's. But yeah, I have published the Innovative Leaders 90-Day Entry Plan, and I'm working on a book that also aligns with just how we enter the role. And yeah.
Bob, you want to talk about militant
Yeah, I did
positivity?
write a book that got released in October, and I'm speaking on that a little bit. And if I can be of any service to any of you in that, militant positivity is not pretending things are great when they suck. That's not what it is. Militant positivity is exactly what I just talked about, which is like, it's okay. Like you're enough and you are enough in your leadership reality. There's not a leadership archetype, some of the stuff you've heard me talk about here today. And then moreover, like, the sun continues to come up the next day and you set the weather as the leader in your journey. So people want to have a leader that they can say good morning to without feeling like they just got dumped on, right? Remember the role that you play, that you set the weather around the people that you're with. So anyway, I'm talking on that. I'm speaking on that. I'm going to be on ABC 30, Vanessa Vasconcelos. So
That's
anyway,
awesome.
I'm going to be speaking as a keynote speaker for the parent, what is it? PTA, California State PTA. So I don't know if I could be of any service to you or add any value to you in your world. My job is to try and help leaders stay in the seat, because the longer leaders stay there, the more stability there is and the better it is for kids. So anything I can do to help you stay in your job, that's what I want to do.
And then Heidi, A plus CCSA, do you want to share a little bit about that in your involvement?
Sure. Yes, I've been a member of the A Plus Advisory Council for years. I've also recently been much more involved with CCSA at their local PAC meetings in Orange County. And I can't say enough the network of people, how critical it is, especially when things get, the education world sometimes feels big until it's not. And when we had some issues with, some funding determinations, and I really needed to lean into these network of people, CCSA, CSDC, and A plus. They are just a remarkable group of leaders. And if anybody's going to show up for you, it's educators. And I've always been, that's the best thing about, I feel half of the profession we chose was the fact that the people I'm around just they're inspiring. And so I can't say enough about the networking piece. That was kind of unexpected. Again, another piece of the job that I wasn't realizing how critical that would be, because we really do all lift one another up. So I just can't say enough about that investment into the conferences and into the people. And a lot of time the networking alone at those conferences of just realizing how, maybe a policy or a practice that you do could benefit someone and vice versa. So just really staying involved. And to answer Omar's question
Yep.
on taking the time in the leadership role to if you have to overlook CBO, what your people are doing and how do you make sure they're following the same protocol as you. We have an executive cabinet team that we meet once a week, almost the entire day, where we kind of model the meeting a little bit like a board meeting. Like we have a read-only closed session type concept where everybody will give updates. And then we kind of go around the table and all provide an update. And I think that it's really a pulse check for me and making sure that the culture and the goals and everything is still aligned with how I'd like it to run. And then obviously allowing them time to share any, suggestions they have at that time too. So I think it's just that weekly pulse point is critical. So I kind of have an idea and continue to know the direction of the top six.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And as we close out, I would love for you all to share one thing you want people to walk away with, remembering, and it could be something you wish you'd known. It could be a lesson learned, or even why this role is still worth considering. What is one thing that you would love to share with everyone who's on the call today?
Can we just agree kids need champions? And you have the very unique opportunity to do that. The superintendency is not easy. Nobody's going to say it is, but it's a cherished, sacred honor to be able to block and tackle so that the important work of kids and schools can happen. Like it'll change your life in positive ways. Like live your life on the edges of extremes. It's the best job. It's the worst job. It's the same job. Like, so go do it.
Yeah. I like to say I like to live in the gray area. There's black and white, and I like to live in the gray and step on toes a little bit. But the reason I do that is all for kids. And so if you don't have thick skin and are not willing to put forth 110% to champion for kids every day, I don't know that the superintendency is for you. But if it is, come along. Let's say hi, because we need people like you.
And then Heidi, anything you want to? You're on mute, Heidi.
No, I don't think so. Just strongly encouraging staying involved with the kids. Sometimes we can get removed, and some of the ways I fill my cup up the most is getting out and working directly with the kids. Like Melanie said, we don't have parking lots, but if it was parking lot duty, I go to the community events. I sit, at a bowling alley and just talk to kids, and you can't lose sight. If you don't lose sight about why you're doing the work, I think you stay the course.
Yeah. And then I know we're starting to wrap up. Kim shared a resource in the chat. Let me go back. We'll do Q&A after. So Kim shared a resource in the chat. We've talked about trust, burnout, and really what it takes about supporting people in the role. And so we have a staff culture question resource that you can go ahead and download to help create a healthy staff culture if you are interested. The link is in the chat, and then also you can scan the QR code. But I do want to go back. We're ending. Bob, Melanie, and Heidi, thank you. I want to open it up for Q&As. If anyone has any Q&As for our amazing speakers. We'll go back. Oops, there you go. Are there any questions in here? And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or just come off of mute. All right, if there aren't any questions, Melanie, Bob, Heidi, thank you all so much for being a part of this first webinar series with us. We are grateful for your honesty, your transparency, your leadership, and thank you all for everyone who joined today. Like I said, we will be continuing the series on February 18th, where we'll be talking about leading through crisis. We have some amazing leaders who will be joining us. So we will see you all February 18th. Thank you for joining our Wednesday webinar series. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you all at the next webinar. Thank you.